Okay, welcome. Next episode. What episode is this? I can't remember. But anyways, so welcome to this episode of the Devlog. As a quick recap, what did we do last time? We have the charge indicator working now so that it's not in the way. I pushed it off to the side. We've decoupled the HUD from the viewport so that it doesn't shake when the screen shakes. I've got auto ball respawn, so the ball respawns automatically when it falls out, when it goes to the ball out zone. And I've got a dynamic aiming blend, which I incorporate in paddle somewhere. Where did I incorporate that? Try strike ball over here. Oh no. Anyways, I incorporated it somewhere, I can't remember now. Oh no, it was called calc strike direction, and I calculated the calc proximity percentage. So that's what I've done. I also incorporated a wedge buffer. So that was here. So essentially with the existing half wedge, because I've got two wedges, one half there, one half there, and adding a buffer so that it makes it easier for the player. Sorry if you can hear a car in the background. So let's play this. This is what it feels like so far, which feels pretty good actually. Let me quit this. Let's go to the paddle and turn on show the wedge as well so that you can see the wedge. So here you can see what the actual wedge is compared to the visual wedge, or what the wedge plus the buffer looks like. Now upon playing this, sometimes it didn't really have the feel that I wanted. So if you remember at the end of the last episode, I did explain. So this is how my current buffer is working. It takes the wedge, and from the pivot it adds like 15, let's say 15 degrees Celsius. Oh my god, I'm really hot. 15 degrees from the pivot, so it's adding that. But the feeling that I'm trying to get is just a little bit more forgiveness, and for some reason it doesn't give that feeling at all. And it doesn't really matter how wide or narrow I make it. So I want to actually, so last time I did implement this, I didn't like how it was, or I felt like it could be better. The idea is I'm gonna try to do this now. This is the plan that I've got next. Pretend that's a semicircle. Is instead of adding a buffer to the wedge, instead whenever I try to strike it, and if it's not within the wedge, I check. Let's say I check what distance is the ball to where the wedge is. Or like, let's say I try strike it here. Just calculate that distance, and if set a parameter of like, let's say, I don't know, 5 pixels, right? Sorry, my writing's horrible. Let's say I set it to 5 pixels. Check whether it's within 5 pixels, and if it is, then allow it to count as a strike. I feel like that would be a better method, because instead of like having it angled, it would be like this 5 pixel area around it. That means even on top it would count as a hit as well. I'm going to try to implement that. Initially I'm going to do my best not to use Claude or AI, because I feel like there's enough here where I've got enough syntax here and maths here where I can reuse a lot of it and try to like configure it in a way where it's gonna do what I want. I'm gonna try to do that. If not, I'll get a little bit of help from AI to build this. So yeah, let me crack on with that. Alright, so that is done. Like I said, well, I did use Claude actually, but not for what you think. So I actually managed to do this by myself. My implementation of it, actually what I ended up doing, so I didn't do that, what I described. I actually did a blend of both of them. What I did, so obviously before I had sort of an angle coming from pivot, and I've kept that angle except I've just added a buffer radius. So I've set a buffer radius to about 18, well 18 I'm not sure, it was 18 as a float. So essentially instead of having just a uniform thing, I just kept what I had before, the angle buffer, widening it and just increased the radius. So my implementation of it, where is it gone? We've got, I restructured all of this. There we go. So I included something called buffer radius, set it to 18. We've still got our wedge angle buffer degrees. Still got that. For draw, all I've done was added to what I had before here, but instead taken total radius, which is this. Okay, so I'm explaining this really poorly. I've got the buffer radius, which is however much I want to add to the radius. Then with max radius is what I'm counting visually in game as the radius. And total radius I do as a computed property. Total radius equals max radius plus buffer radius. So in our debug sort of showing the wedge thing, we've still got the wedge and what is going to count visually. But then for the buffer, I've just replaced everything with total radius. And then, where's it gone? Then I added for tri-strike ball, replace this with total radius. So before it was just max radius, so I just replaced it with total radius. That's all I've done. I slipped that in, so it gave me, and then so I'd done all of that, and I quickly asked Claude. Initially, what I had was total radius. I was computing it in, you know, instantiating it inside ready. But what I was told was the problem with that is if I want to tweak any values in the inspector, it would actually be out of sync visually what it is inside because it's already computed first time. So the best thing to do was to do a computed property where any time total radius is called, it just computes it like that. So that's all I used Claude for. And then I asked Claude to restructure and reorganize my variables because it was starting to get so unwieldy, and I was starting to like just stack stuff on top of each other, and there was no rhyme or reason. So that's what I used AI for. But in terms of the implementation, that was all me. Pretty happy with what I got. So I'm gonna have show wedge buffer here, so you'd be able to see. You'd be able to see what I'm talking about. So yeah, so this yellow one is going to count in game, and in terms of like computing things and ball speed and velocity and stuff like that and charge values, it's based on this. But the buffer area where it's going to allow a little bit more forgiveness is this dark yellow. Hopefully that shows up. Yeah, this dark yellow here, and as you can see, we got what we had before, which is that buffer radius, buffer angle, and then I just added 18 to the radius. So now when I play, oh, I shouldn't have done that, but now when I play, it feels a little bit better. So those edge cases do help if like stuff like that really. But again, I didn't want it to be too forgiving it still needs to be like a sort of skill to it and a risk of missing the ball. But like stuff like that before wouldn't hit. That wouldn't hit before, and now it's actually being rendered as a ball strike. And again, you can still miss the ball like that. So I tweaked the values to where I felt like it felt forgiving but still fair. I mean, sorry, difficult but still fair at the same time instead of like just very harsh cutoffs. So the best test for it is turn off show wedge buffer. Obviously, you guys aren't playing it, but in terms of how it feels, so this is what the player is gonna see visually. They obviously won't know about the buffer, and yeah, it plays really well. So like, I'll try to do edge cases. Let's try to do an edge there. Yeah, stuff like that. It feels really nice to play. I like it. I still need to fix that issue. That's on the back of my mind. I'll keep that in the back of my mind, but I've got other steps to do. All right, so that's sorted. Let's turn this off. That's sorted. What is next is let's name that here. Let me check my stats. So we got the wedge buffer done. I'm happy with what I got. So we got done here. Super hit. What is a super hit? So this is a game mechanic that I want to implement. I have drawn this so many times. Okay. This is obviously the wedge. A super hit is if you strike the ball dead on to the pivot. I think should be like you risked something very difficult and you should be rewarded for that. And it should count as like a, the ball going at like a really fast speed, pure just aim exactly wherever you want it to go. Maybe you get like an extra life later down the line if I develop that. Maybe you get also things like in the future I'm gonna have like targets that are breakable, but you'd have to hit them like 2 or 3 times. But if it's a super hit, it could just, since it's a super hit, it should be able to just break it first time. Stuff like that, where I can add some sort of incentive to go for a super hit or something to reward the player. So super hit is there. However, it's the same as like the buffer area. There has to be a little bit of forgiveness because I mean hitting it dead on like 0 at 0 of the pivot is gonna be like borderline impossible. I don't want it to feel impossible. I still want it to be there to be some forgiveness where it might be for very skilled players they're able to pull it off in certain circumstances. So I'm going to create like a small radius around the pivot, and if the ball is anywhere inside this small area, that will count as a super hit. Obviously it's still going to be a very small area, so it's still going to be difficult. I'm going to have to tweak that, but that's the plan, and I'm going to implement that. I'm not going to use AI for this either, since for some reason when I asked Claude to do all of these variables, it ended up rinsing out my tokens, so I can't even use AI anyways. But I wasn't gonna, my plan wasn't to anyways. But yeah, I'm gonna try implement this. It's obviously going to be in the paddle script, and I'm gonna see what I do. Right, so that is not done. I've just been looking at my code and trying to refactor things and thinking about a lot, basically. I'll tell you, I'm kind of at a crossroads there, really. So the way I'm deciding to calculate the super shot, the area, is I'm taking a super shot radius percentage, set it to 0.25% here, and all I'm doing is calculating, okay, so the super shot radius is 25% of max radius. That's how I'm going to calculate the super shot radius. That's all fine. I've drawn it on the page. I've gone through my paddle code, right? And I'm noticing here, where is it? Handle strike. Handle strike here. So here's where I'm at crossroads. So we try strike ball. If the ball is within, then we're taking the ball directions, strike power, emit the signal that the ball's hit, and then apply the velocity to the ball, right? So you go into try strike ball. I'm seeing here all this bunch of stuff to figure out whether the ball is within the wedge or not. That's fine. So I'm thinking, okay, I need to like slide into this something about, you know, code to detect if it's a super shot, which is just, you know, is distance less than super shot radius in simple terms. Is distance less than or equal to super short radius, right? That's all it is. But obviously, in order to apply like different aspects of ball velocity and aiming and whether it targets something or not and how many strikes it should take, I'm gonna have to like sort of rework the pipeline for all this, especially, sorry about that, especially like where I'm calling try strike ball. So now I thought, okay, let me add something to my strike info, is super shot. So when I emit the signal, I can emit is super shot equals distance if distance is less than or equal to super shot radius, right? I created a ball script, just basic, taking the paddle, subscribe to the ball hit signal, and then on ball hit, print out super shot, just as a basic idea. So that is working, right? It's detecting whether I've wired everything up. Let me keep an eye out for the output panel. You'd be able to see when it's within this white radius here is the super short radius basically. So if it's outside, there's not a super short, and if it's inside, it is a super short. And I really like the having it at 25% because it makes it really difficult actually. So that's all fine. Where I'm struggling, where I'm at the crossroads, and this is a bit of a ramble, I know. I don't know whether to slide in all the changes and specifics for Supershot into Paddle, or do I rework everything in terms of, okay, we're calculating ball velocity and whether it's within the wedge or not happens inside Paddle, but anything to do with ball velocity or changing the ball velocity and stuff like that, put it into the ball script that I just made. But that would have me like taking a bunch of variables into the ball script. I'm not using AI for any of this. I'm just trying to like work this out myself without trying to work out what the best way to go about this. So architecturally, I've got an idea of how to do it. I've planted the seeds for it. But architecturally, I don't know whether it should live inside Paddle, risk making it even longer and more complex than it is, or put it inside Ball. But if I put it inside Ball, I'm gonna have to like transfer a bunch of stuff into this. Not to mention add some more information into the strike info for when the ball is hit. So stuff like I'm thinking conceptually, I might have to um, transfer over like stuff like what is the radius so that I can stuff like that. Well, I know, I don't know. I'm a little bit stuck. So I don't know if I'd have to transfer max radius, but I'd certainly have to transfer over, not respawn ball, handle strike over it. So I might like just get rid of these two, get rid of this, have emit ball hit, give it the distance, give it the ball direction, give it the strike power, refactor all of this so that it takes all of that information. So that when the ball's hit, inside the ball script, I've got all that information. Then this line, I could just apply the velocity to the ball from within inside the ball, which realistically is where it should be. So I think that's the way forward, and it's going to take a lot of effort. So in terms of like calculating whether it's a super hit or not, that's fine. I've sorted it. It's as simple as is distance less than super short radius. That's it. I figured that out. So I need to like rewire a bunch of stuff. Transfer over what is, purely the ball stuff, and then try to simply only put simply the stuff to do with the ball in terms of the distance, the strike velocity, like the strike power and the velocity and stuff like that, and then handle all of that within inside ball. I don't know if I'm going to do that now or tomorrow. This isn't the end of the video. I'm just going to stitch together today and tomorrow because I don't feel like I've done enough. I started really late today. But what I'm going to try to do is next, I'm going to try to flesh out this ball script, try to transfer over everything that's necessary for the ball and put only ball strikes into, well, the paddle, striking the ball should stay inside paddle, but transfer all the information I need to actually change the velocity of the ball inside ball instead of paddle doing all of that stuff. But yeah, I'm going to try to do that and then we'll see how I get along. Right, so I have a lot of explaining to do and I don't have anything to show for it. Bottom line is I've not implemented the what was it? The strike power? No. Is super shot. So I've not implemented super shot at all. what I've done is I've spent the entirety of today and obviously part of yesterday. So I'm going to combine both days into uh, one devlog. But I've spent all this time just trying to refactor this entire architecture because ultimately I realized I can't be dealing with the ball inside paddle. That just makes no sense. And then in terms of applying stuff to the ball and stuff like that, that has to go into the ball. And in terms of dealing with the ball, that has to happen inside Game Manager. So I've been trying to shift things about and trying to work out ways to weave things in together and then asking AI as well because it was just a massive job to do. And essentially this is what I got. So paddle, what I've done is I'm going to try to explain this, show you what I've got, which is just going to be the exact same gameplay, nothing different. But I'm going to try to do this as best as I can. So paddle, am I recording? Yeah. So paddle, I've removed all sort of to references to ball. Paddle's doing nothing with ball. There's no reference to ball right now. The only, in terms of main thing that I've done, I've included an export for Game Manager. So Game Manager is going to be plugged into paddle, right? For ball, everything's same. I'm checking it if it is super shot, and I'm just printing super shot right now. I've not implemented it yet. And then if so in paddle, it's paddle's going to call apply strike if it is a strike, and then it's going to go to the ball's the current ball's script, and then apply linear velocity, taking in the ball direction and strike power. Right, ball simple. That's done. Game Manager is where I've just like had to include a bunch of stuff. So what I've got a pack scene, ball scene, right? So that's my ball scene here. Nothing, too crazy. I've got a marker 2D, which is going to be the ball spawn point. I've got a ball parent, which is like a container just to hold all the balls in case like I want to add more or do other stuff. And then I've got the ball out zone. I've got a variable that is the current ball, just to track what the current ball is, and I've got a delegate ball changed event handler. Nothing is subscribed to it yet, but that's for future if I want to do something with another script to understand, the ball's changed to do something, right? So that's not really doing anything. I've just got it there for now. In ready, I've got all the stuff, which is the same basically. I'm just got a else block, and then once ready, spawn ball. Right, this is within Game Manager. So Game Manager is fully managing the game now. Before I had paddle managing everything, which is why it was so long. Now it's about 377 lines. How long is this? Okay, 200. But now this is managing it, most things, alright? So upon ready, spawn the ball. What does spawn ball do? It gets that ball scene, instantiates it, assigns it to ball, and what this line is doing is node parent, ball parent, question mark, question mark. What that's saying is use ball parent, which is the ball container. If it's not null, if it is null, then just as a safety check, just use this ball instead. Then assign the ball to the parent, and then make sure that the ball's global position. Remember, this is on ready when the game just starts out. Assign the ball's global position to the ball spawn point, the marker that I'm setting down. Current ball is now the ball that we're referencing here, and then emit the signal that the ball's changed. Alright, on ball lost, all that's changed is this line here, where instead of doing paddle.respawn ball, I'm doing just respawn ball, because I've got my own respawn ball method here. Respawn ball, all it's doing is checking if the current ball is still active, delete the current ball once it's safe to delete it, and then spawn a new ball again. So that's how. So essentially, if I want to respawn the ball, spawn ball is only being used on ready, and any other time where I'm respawning the ball, if it's like the debug Y method or if the ball falls out, then it's using just spawn. Then it would use respawn ball, and then within respawn ball, once we cleared the ball, spawn the ball again. Try get ball. This is for paddle, I believe. So this method, I've learned something new. There's something called out. All right. So if you have a method called that returns a boolean, you can have sort of, how do I explain it? It's like it returns a ball, but it also is able to give data. It's able to give two pieces of data basically. It can return a boolean value, and here I can return information about a ball variable as well, to the caller, which would be paddle, right? So what I'm doing is, let's say paddle is gonna try to get the ball. It calls this method. It will return true. If it returns true, it will give all the information about the ball. So I'm doing ball equals current ball, then return ball not null, and is instance valid ball, and then if not ball is queued for deletion. Pretty self-explanatory. So if any of them is false, then this method just returns false, and if all of them are true, then it would return true and also give the ball instance as well. So that's if paddle tries to get the ball. Same with try get ball global position. It's the same thing, except I'm using Godot vector as the position. Try get ball if try get ball, which is this method. It tries to get it assigns the position and then returns true. So then it's got position. Else position is default. Return false. Simple as. On ball hit, that's exactly the same, nothing's changed. Process, did I change anything? I only changed this, I believe, and it was just calling this respawn ball. Unless I change something else. I don't think I changed something else for process. And then everything's the same. This is a lot of work for no change, but sometimes this happens. Okay, so we got the game manager. In ready, are we doing anything? No. So ready is the same. Physics process, I believe, is the same. Yep. Physics process is the same. I believe everything is in handle strike. Oh, handle strike. This is where you'd see it. So in winding, you can get rid of this old code right here. So this is doing if, remember that try get ball method. So where is it gone? Try get ball here, right? So what we're doing in when we're trying to strike the ball. One second. Alhamdulillah. Okay, so what we're doing is if we've detected that they've winded, then if game manager dot try get ball out ball, then we get essentially we get a ball from this if it's true. So then we go pivot to ball dot global position, simple. If try strike ball pivot to ball, I've changed this, I've added a ball thing. If try strike ball, then we get the ball direction, strike power, our same old method where we make a strike info thing, emit the ball, and then call the ball's apply strike method. Right, that's fine. Everything else the same in try strike ball. So we need to get to everything's the same in handle strike. Now we need to get to try strike ball, I believe, is where we got the other changes. Here, the reason why I added the ball as the argument is because right here I need to get ball.global position, which I believe I got a method for that, try get ball. So I could have used that actually, which I'll refactor later on. But right now I've done so much coding, right? I don't want to refactor that. I don't want to touch anything. Okay, so we got ball. Everything else is the same. Everything else is the same. I hope that makes sense. It was so much headache and so yes. Anyways, playing the game, a bunch of stuff has actually changed. So ball is the same, right? HUD's the same, paddle's the same. Main couple things are different. The things that are different, I've added a ball container. Again, just a place to store all the balls. Maybe later on I'll have more balls or whatever. That's fine. Game manager is actually using this as a container to store all the balls. We got ball spawn point, right? This is the spawn point of the ball now. And then for paddle, the things that changed is all of that ball stuff has gone. A bunch of stuff is gone. Game manager, I've just assigned game manager to that, and now game manager has a lot of stuff. We got the export of the paddle, export of the ball scene, so I have to assign the ball scene. Then the ball spawn point, which is this marker 2D that I've got. We got ball parent, which is the ball container, and then ball out zone. And then if we play it, it plays exactly the same. There's no difference whatsoever. So even though, I mean, this happens in coding quite a lot, but you realize that I realized that I started this game obviously trying to learn and just trying to get things together, and then realized as it's growing along, architecturally it makes no sense for paddle to be dealing with all of this. So I've had to change a bunch of stuff. Funnily enough, right, it does still. So we can lose 3 lives, game over, press start to restart, and then it restarts. And then I got my press Y. Well, I don't have my input overlay, but I can press Y to respawn the ball. That's the debug method. Interestingly, let's turn this off and let's make it unlimited lives. If you see at the bottom, it is able to detect whether it's a super shot or not, which is happening within the ball script actually. So we go here. Let me try get a super shot. It's really difficult. Yeah, there we go. You can see at the bottom in the output node, it says super shot. And then let's try get another one. Oh my god, this is difficult. There we go, another super shot. So it works, right? Obviously, no super shot is being applied, but yeah, that's it. So I've spent basically 2 days just refactoring and reformatting all of this. We do have a reference to game manager, so that's fine. This is for later. I'm not going to deal with that now. So all that work just for the game to play exactly the same, but for it to be architecturally better. That's what it is. Now, with that done, that's going to be the end. I'm not going to recap what I've done because it was just so much, right? I'm happy. I'm glad I've done it. Now things are a little bit more organized. Next up, so the next step is going to be the super short application. So now we've refactored everything where, in terms of things happening to the ball, that's going to be running inside the ball script, so that's good. That's a headache out of the way. So next we are going to try to this information from the strike info of finding out if it is a super shot. If it is a super shot, we need to do something, make it like super speed and add effects maybe later on, and different sort of effects, like I don't know, make the ball stronger or whatever. So that would, I know like conceptually it's all gonna be most of it is going to be happening inside of ball, so that should be one less headache. But that's the plan for the next devlog. This devlog's finished. Man, that was a lot of work for not much output, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. All right, thank you for watching. Appreciate it. Inshallah. See you next time.